Welcome to the 2020 Cabin Fever Challenge Awards video. The Cabin Fever Challenge is a celebration of our ancestors, and one of the traditions we can share with them is the art of marksmanship. In this case, positional shooting. 5 rounds standing, 5 rounds kneeling, 5 rounds prone, 5 rounds sitting, in that order with the mandatory 5-round reload in between each position. Entries are timed from the first shot to the last shot, and after evaluating the target, a score is rendered. There are 5 divisions: Vintage Semi-Auto, Modern Unlimited, Manual Repeating, Single Shots, and lastly, Muzzleloaders, a new division for this year. And so without further ado, let's get on to Division 1.
Welcome everyone, Yandel31 here. This is the Division 1 Vintage Awards video. To get right into it, in 6th place, we have Forrest Firearms shooting a rather interesting Auto Ordnance M1A1 Thompson. So he achieved 6 hits in a total of 76 seconds, which rendered a final score of 39.5. Moving along to 5th place overall, we have J Black River shooting an AKM. In a total of 94 seconds, he achieved 8 hits that rendered a final score of 42.6. Coming in at 4th place, we have CNR Collector shooting a Yugoslavian SKS. Pretty cool. He achieved 9 hits in a total of 79 seconds, which resulted in a final score of 56.9. Moving things along to 3rd place overall, we have a shooter by the name of Car Yu. I apologize, I probably pronounced that wrong. Nonetheless, he shot well, getting 10 hits in a total of 80 seconds, rendering a final score of 62.5. I should mention that he's also shooting an East German AKM. Pretty cool, especially because we can't have that in Canada. Placing 2nd overall, we have Rick, who is shooting a Chinese SKS. He shot well, getting 11 hits in a total of 74 seconds that resulted in a final score of 74. Well done, Rick. For this year's Division 1 challenge, I have one honorable mention that I'd like to bring up, and that is OORAHH. He is one of the moderators for this challenge. Even though he can't place on the podium, as it were, I'd still like to mention his attempt. He was shooting a M1 carbine, getting 6 hits in a total of 56 seconds, which resulted in a final score of 53.6. So without further ado, in 1st place overall, in the winner for this year's Cabin Fever 2020 Division 1 category, is Viking R shooting a American copy of the VZ58. He got 13 hits in a very fast 53 seconds, which resulted in a final score of 122.6. Well done. So that's it for this year's Division 1 entry. Again, big congratulations goes out to Viking for winning this year. I'd like to say well done to all the shooters across all divisions. I hope to see you next year. So with that said, Rifle Chair, back to you.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan with OORAHH, and I am coming to you from my Rona bunker. Once again, honored to be a moderator for Cabin Fever Challenge. This year in 2020, I was once again the moderator for the Modern Unlimited division, and today we're going to be talking about the people who participated in this division. So I want to start off by just thanking everyone who decided to participate this year. I know there was a lot of complications this year with, kind of a global pandemic thing going on. So for those of you who were able to make it out and to film their challenges, I really do appreciate your submissions. We actually had a pretty good turnout, all things considered, for this division. And I know there's a lot of people who would have otherwise liked to submit their takes on this division. However, due to limitations with ranges closing and all that, I know some people weren't able to. So I would encourage you next year, early bird gets the worm, so to speak. So make sure you get out there nice and early, get your runs in, and get your submissions put into the Facebook page. One of the things that I really appreciate about the Cabin Fever Challenge is the fact that it brings together people from all over the country and all over the world to unite under a common goal, and that is to advance the ideas and the goals of kind of modern day marksmanship skills and musketry and all that stuff. And Because of that, I don't want to just focus on the top people in this division. I also want to focus on the people who were still willing to participate and still submit their scores, and acknowledge those people who were at the bottom of the list, and hopefully together as a community we can lift them up and encourage and help them on their way to improving their scores for next year. So with that, I'm going to be starting the third from the bottom. This year was, and I just want to apologize in advance for mispronouncing people's names or channel names. As the great Dan Carlin says, I am multilingual in my ability to mispronounce words and names from all different sorts of languages. So third from the bottom, we have Karko, who is running an AR-15 with a red dot with a magnifier. If I remember correctly, that was the only AR-15 in that configuration. This year we've seen red dots, we've seen magnified optics. So this is the first time I can remember seeing a red dot paired with a magnifier. And they scored a total of just under 70 points at 69.76-ish points. So really good job there. Second from the bottom, we have Rick Nethery, and I just want to once again thank Rick for making sure there's an American flag flown proudly in your video. And once again, thank you for running that 03A3. It's always a gorgeous gun to see run through these. And also I want to just say thanks to Rick Nethery. He's really kind of taken on this challenge, and I like seeing him building his own channel around this sort of event and other things that he does, and seeing his progression not only as a shooter but as a content creator has been pretty cool from last year to this year. So he came in running his AR-15 with a scope with a score of 42.2. And then bringing up the rear, we have one of my friends, one of my coworkers, Eric McCluskey. He was running his FNP90 in an SBR configuration with a suppressor, which I believe, at least to my recollection, this is the first time an SBR, at least stateside here, has been run through the Cabin Fever Challenge. And on top of that, he also is the only person that I know of who's ever run the Cabin Fever Challenge at night. So I would definitely recommend checking out his video on this Cabin Fever Challenge. It's on the Facebook page. At least it's linked there. So definitely check that out. It's neat seeing someone put extra barriers in the way, because if the Cabin Fever Challenge wasn't hard enough, he decided to do it at night running a light on his FNP90 SBR suppressed, which was pretty cool. And he brought up a score of 33.33 repeating. So thanks again to the people bringing up the bottom of the list, and I'm anxious to see what you guys do next year. So moving up to the top of the list, in third place we have one that I'm probably going to mispronounce here, Jiva Betzer, who is running a Tavor X95 that had been converted down to 9mm. He was looking pretty cold during his run, which was a total of 67 seconds with 19 hits for a score of 141.79. So really good score there. Next, in second place, we have someone who is actually my manager at work. We have Aaron Stanton, or the Viking, who is running an AR-15 with a scope and suppressor. That one was a total run of a blazing 43 seconds, the fastest run this year so far, actually by a good margin too, with 13 hits for a score of 151.2. And then in first place, we have 3MTA3, who is running an ATRS MSR with a scope in 5.56, and he came in first place with a run of 51 seconds with a whopping 17 hits for a grand total score of 166.67. We'll just go ahead and round up there. So really great run there for a really high score. Once again, I want to thank all the competitors for Division 2, and I really look forward to seeing everyone's submissions next year.
Hello friends, my name is Rifle Chair. I will be presenting the awards video for Division 3, Manual Repeating Rifles. Starting with Viking R in third place with a beautiful CZ527 and 7.62x39 and running open sights. Viking R achieves 9 hits in 85 seconds for a total of 52.9 points. Viking R demonstrates smooth transitions and an economy of motion between positions and how he runs that rifle. Reloads are fast, and definitely each step is well thought out. what are you going to do and how are you going to do it, right? And being a left-handed shooter running a bolt gun that is designed for a right-handed shooter, maybe, just maybe, Viking R has proved that being left-handed is not a disadvantage. Moving on to second place is Panda East and West Vlog with a total of 16 hits, which is very impressive, and a total of 122 seconds for a total score of 65.6 points. Now, what really impresses me about this is that Panda has done this whole shoot in a blizzard, in a winter blizzard. And he's also shooting a custom Savage short action. I think it looks like maybe a Model 10 action in 223 Remington. And it's very close to the rifle design that I've been pursuing myself. But very, very impressive shooting, Panda. And what would have been second place also is Rifle Chair, but because I'm one of the umpires and one of the division leaders, I am automatically disqualified from entering into the competition, but I wanted to shoot it anyway, so I shot it. Yeah. And I used a Remington 700 LTR with wearing an MDT chassis in 223, and I achieved a total of 17 hits and a total of 111 seconds for a total score of 76.6. Now, in first place is Mr. Robert Harris, running a Ruger American in 7.62 by 39 with a total of 16 hits performed in 98 seconds for a total of 81.6. Now, in this competition, in my experience from having done it since 2014, this is basically the 6th year running now, is that if you're going to be running a bolt gun and if you're going to score well, if you're going to be high in the ranking, you need to beat the 100 second threshold. You need to be able to deliver all 20 rounds through 4 different shooting positions accurately in 100 or less seconds. And if you can achieve that, you're likely going to be on or near the podium during the awards video. So well done, Mr. Robert Harris. Excellent shooting. Thank you for entering our competition. I think we can all learn something by watching you shoot. I'd now like to make the following honorable mentions, starting with Cora Cobbles, who's running a K98K military Mauser in 8x57. She's running 218 grain Cupro nickel-plated bullets, those are hand loads, from components torn down from the 8x63 Swedish Mauser. And you can see that in order for her to get that heavy slug to print at 100 meters, she's got her rear sight seriously elevated. So very impressive. Plus shooting in complete winter conditions, I'm very impressed. That rear sight has got to be at least at probably 400 or 500 meters. Very, very impressive. And to be a left-handed shooter to boot. Now, apparently, cock on open is much easier for a left-handed shooter to manipulate that bolt if it's cock on opening rather than cock on closing like a Lee Enfield or a P14 or M17 Enfield. So just beautiful, beautiful shooting. And I think this is an all-time high for Cora Cobbles. Next, I'd like to recognize Blowback Vines running a 1941 Winchester Model 70 and 30-06 running stripper clips. Yes, this Winchester Model 70 has a stripper clip groove built into it. A very early Model 70 Winchester. The first production year, I think, was 1935 or 1936. This is a 1941 model that he's running with a really nice looking receiver peep sight and running clipped ammo. So it's a robust rifle. He runs this thing like a champ with quick reloads, open sights, and good impact on the target. Very well done, Mr. Vines. And the last honorable mention I'd like to make is T.C. Wilson, who is running a number 4 Mark I Lee Enfield. And he is running that rifle at the age of 77, wearing full COVID-19 attire, and shooting it rather well for a 77-year-old, in my opinion, in winter conditions. So thank you, Mr. Wilson, for entering our competition. Very, very impressed.
Welcome to the Class 4 category of the 2020 Cabin Fever Challenge. This category includes single-shot rifles, like break actions, falling blocks, and rolling blocks. The overall winner for this division is CNR Collector. He's shooting a Martini Henry Mark IV chambered in 5.77-450. It looks like a very well-preserved example, and it packs quite a wallop. Standard load for this rifle is a 480 grain bullet traveling at around 1300 to 1350 feet per second, so it's not for the faint of heart. Check out this recoil. CNR got 5 hits in 223 seconds for a total score of 11.2. Well done, CNR, and congratulations for winning this division. These last two shooters are competition organizers. They're excluded from the competition. But let's check out how they did. Rifle Chair is shooting a BSA Small Action Martini chambered in 22 Hornet. Originally, these rifles were chambered in 22 rimfire. 22 Hornet is a big step up from that. It's suitable for pest and small predator control. Rifle Chair got 16 hits on target in 160 seconds for a total score of 50 points. Well done, Rifle Chair. The last shooter is OORAHH. OORAHH proves that you don't have to search for a 100-plus-year-old relic to have fun with a single-shot rifle. This one that he's shooting is a Henry 44 Magnum single-shot. This one has his barrel shortened down to 16 inches from the original 22 and has a short rail on the top for a red dot. It looks like he really loves this gun. Behold the face of pure joy. OORAHH gets 9 hits on target in 189 seconds for a total score of 24.32. First off, I'd like to thank Rifle Chair and the rest of the organizers who made this shoot happen. I'd also like to thank CNR Collector, who was the only competitor that qualified for the division. Maybe this year's match will be the proving ground and will show the rest of the community that single-shot rifles can be fun, and as OORAHH showed us, they can be inexpensive and available. If you have a handy rifle sitting in your closet, maybe think about dusting it off for 2021. So that's it, folks. Have a good one, and I'll see you out on the range.
Howdy there, folks. This is Murray of 3BARD Videos. I was this year's host for the new muzzleloading class of Rifle Chair's Cabin Fever Challenge. So I'm going to be quickly going over the scores with you. This year we had 3 entries total, which may sound bleak, but it's actually, in all honesty, 2 more entries than I was predicting we would get this year, just in light of the current circumstances. I'm going to be going through the scores, just starting off in last place and working my way up to first place. So in third place we have myself, Murray. Technically I'm disqualified, just because I am the host of this class, and to keep things, non-controversial, the host scores technically don't count, which makes perfect sense to me. But I thought I'd throw it in there anyways, just to, build some content for the video. So this year I used my Traditions Kentucky 50 caliber flintlock rifle, and I managed to get 2 hits on target. It took me 259 seconds to do, which gives me a score of 3.9. So moving on to second place, we have Rob with British Muzzleloaders, who's a very famous fella who is a Canadian YouTube content creator. He has a really fascinating channel that covers exactly what his title says, British Muzzleloading. And if you haven't heard of him before, I definitely invite you to check out his channel. He used what he labeled as a P61. He got 3 hits on target, but he shot at 100 meters, which is double the distance that we speculated in the rules. So, and he didn't really elaborate as to why he did that. I just presume it was for added challenge, which if a contestant wants to challenge themselves, then all the power to them. It's no big deal. But the reason why we got the 50 meters speculated in the rules is simply to give more primitive firearms or muzzleloaders the chance to compete. I definitely understand how, like, a lot of the more modern inline muzzleloaders and percussion cap guns definitely can land some pretty accurate shots out to 100 meters. But we decided to have it at 50 meters just so, you know, the people with the smooth bore muskets and more primitive ignition systems like matchlocks and flintlocks could have some hope in attempting this challenge. So that's why it's at 50 meters. So anyways, he landed 3 hits on target, and he did it in 120 seconds, which is very fast, which gives him a score of 12.6. And then in first place, we have Bill.
Good morning. This is Bill.
Bill used what he said was a 2-band Enfield, which I presume is the same thing as the P61. He got 4 out of 4 hits on target, so congratulations there. And he did it in a slightly slower time of 140 seconds. But because he got 4 hits on target, he actually ended up with a score of 14.3, which puts him in first place. So congratulations to you, Bill, for doing an excellent job and taking first place in the first year of this challenge.
4 hits. Look at that. Nice shooting, Bill.
So that's the scores. And I thank all of you for participating. I definitely look forward to seeing next year's results.
So what do you think? Pretty awesome, huh? Yep. So there certainly were a few challenges with this year's Cabin Fever Challenge, starting with, I think it was mid-March. The Center of Disease Control announced that there was a worldwide pandemic, or the World Health Organization, whoever did it. And that resulted in range closures across North America and Europe. And so many of you folks out there that normally would enter into this competition, some people weren't able to because the facilities were unavailable to you. So that kind of sucks. Many participants couldn't, participate. So what do? Not everybody can build an austere range out in the bush, right? Especially you city dwellers. So we had a total of 44 entries across all 5 divisions, which actually, if you think about it, is pretty incredible. I personally left it way too late. By the time that I was ready to go shoot this, my range had closed. I was forced to go shoot an austere range. Here it is, this is the Cabin Fever Challenge, something that I helped to build, and I was in a situation where I might not have been able to shoot it without having the ability to get in a pickup truck and get out of here and head out to the bush and do it safely. So I guess the take-home message is don't be a procrastinator like me. Oh yes, another one of the challenges that we had. This is the Cabin Fever Challenge, but we weren't thinking about these other challenges that we were going to have to confront. And that has to do with trying to find your submissions, your video submissions. Now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody's making cabin fever videos because they're in isolation. So there's millions of cabin fever videos out there, all over the interwebs, all over Facebook, all over YouTube. Everywhere you go, you see Cabin Fever Challenge or Cabin Fever videos. And so our videos were just kind of hidden in the sea of Cabin Fever videos. And if they weren't posted to the Facebook group site, we may have missed it. One of your videos. We're having problems trying to find them. In fact, poor Ryan, who did Division 2, OORAHH, he, sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said your name. It's like saying, oh, Richard, my name's Richard. Poor Ryan had to actually do his awards video over because there was an entry that was missing from the list. We didn't catch it. So that was definitely, and actually this awards video, this final video here is a redo as well. You see that I'm attired differently. I just went for a hike, cleared my head, and now I'm doing this. So there were a lot of cabin fever videos on YouTube, and so if we missed one of your videos, we apologize, but please just know that it was a special year. We have to find a better way of recording, building a ledger and recording submissions, is that when we receive them through an official way, whether it's an email or maybe put some suggestions. How do you think, what is the best way to do an online competition like this and make sure that none of the scores are missed? None of the videos are all of the videos are referenced and we don't lose anything. Okay, so appreciate your feedback. Share your ideas. Another idea that was put out there was whether or not, it's not really a challenge per se, but it is kind of a challenge, is whether or not division leaders should be disqualified from competing. And there was an overwhelming response that no, they should not be disqualified. The more the merrier. I've yet to have this conversation with the team, see what they think, because they do shoot. They're not doing anything differently, or we aren't doing anything differently than you guys are, right? So I mean, capturing it on film. But we'll see. There was almost a unanimous response that no, division leaders should not be disqualified from competing. And probably the fourth challenge that we had is a huge one, which is the even though this is the United States, this is Canada, this is Britain, and other countries. So I don't think we've seen one from Australia yet, which is kind of come on, you Australians. But here in Canada, we have a very unstable political situation with the Liberal Party of Canada, and now that I guess it's in May, they've announced a wide gun ban, and so the government has essentially weaponized itself against its most vetted and law-abiding citizenry, and they will be confiscating up to 1,500 different firearm types from law-abiding Canadian citizens. They're being painted with the brush of hardcore violent criminals who use firearms, the mentally insane, and criminal elements within our society. And so they're going to be taking our guns. And so what that does is, because of this unstable political environment we find ourselves in, Canadians didn't want to film themselves shooting a firearm. It's plain and simple as that. Because they don't want the government to have a record of them shooting a particular firearm. So, welcome to Canada, folks, where Canada's most vetted citizens are afraid of their government. It's very sad, and it causes an unnecessary amount of anxiety, especially now in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. They come up with this. It's undemocratic, and in my opinion, unlawful for them to do this. There's no social trust. Anyway, what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to, even though we've been kicked down, we're going to stand up, we're going to dust ourselves off, and we're going to keep soldiering forward. That's it, folks. I'd like to thank all of our division umpires and leaders. I don't know why I call them umpires, but I guess you call them division leaders. Yandel 31, OORAHH, Tudenam, 3D Video, and myself, Rifle Chair. We'd all like to say thank you for entering into our competition and putting yourselves out there. You know, ultimately it's about nurturing the art of musketry and your own marksmanship. That's the purpose of the match, and to also celebrate our ancestry and the traditions that we enjoy. Range time is family time, and it's a Canadian tradition. Cheers, folks. Hope you're all doing well. Maple Leaf up.